A millionaire throws away a box. A homeless woman finds it and uncovers a secret that changes their lives forever. Before we dive into the story, comment below and let us know which city you're watching from. Enjoy the story. Liam Donovan was starting a new chapter in his life. Determined to leave the past behind, he gathered old. A millionaire throws away a box. A homeless woman finds it and uncovers a secret that changes their lives forever. Before we dive into the story, comment below and let us know which city you're watching from. Enjoy the story. Liam Donovan was starting a new chapter in his life. Determined to leave the past behind, he gathered old memories into a small wooden box. Walking to a quiet street corner, he tossed the box into a dumpster and walked away. He was letting go of memories. Not just objects. Not far behind, Clara watched him. She was barefoot. Her clothes were worn. She held the hands of her twin daughters, Maya and Luna. Her eyes were fixed on the well. She put her memories into a small wooden box. She walked to a quiet street corner and threw the box into a dumpster. She walked away as though discarding more than just objects. She was letting go of memories. Not far behind, Clara watched him. She didn't have any shoes on. Her clothes were old. She held the hands of her twin daughters, Maya and Luna. Her eyes were fixed on the well-dressed man and the box he had just thrown away. It could be food, she thought. Her heart racing. Wasting no time, Clara hurried to the dumpster. Stay right here. Girls, don't move. She lifted the lid quickly and pulled the box out. It was beautiful. Heavy. Carried a faint scent of old wood. Feeling a rush of adrenaline, Clara stepped back a few paces and opened it. But instead of food, she found photos. Dozens of photos. And in the middle of them, one made her heart stop. A picture of herself. Clara's trembling hands lifted the photo. It was from a party. There. She was younger. Wearing a dress she barely recognized. Beside her was the same man who had just thrown the box away. It was the man she had seen on the street a few moments ago. Her mind raced. Memories from that night came flooding back. She remembered being tipsy. Surrounded by strangers. Laughter. Loud music. It had been a confusing night. She never fully understood what had happened. But now, staring at the picture, she noticed something else, his smile. It was identical to the smiles she remembered. Of her daughters. She looked at the twins, who were waiting near a wall. It was clear, the man in the photo looked like them. The question that had bothered her for 5 years suddenly had an answer. All this time, she had never known who their father was. Now it was clear. Clara held the photo close to her chest. She looked in the direction the man had gone. She knew he was rich and powerful and probably didn't remember her. But none of that mattered. For the first time in years, Clara felt something stirred within her. He has to know, she whispered. She turned to her daughters. Took a deep breath. Made a decision. She was ready to do whatever it took to confront that man and give Mia and Luna the life they deserved. Sitting on the edge of the street with the box beside her, Clara watched her daughters play with scraps of cardboard. Unaware of the storm brewing inside their mother, she picked up the photo again. Studying every detail. The party in the background looked lavish. With sparkling chandeliers and well dressed up. Clara's friend, Liam Donovan, held a drink in one hand and smiled confidently. How did I not realize this before? Clara said, staring at his familiar face. She saw the same strong jawline. The same piercing eyes. The same smile she saw on her daughters every day. Her mind reeled. The photo was from 5 years ago. She remembered being invited to a fancy party by an old friend who had insisted she go. This could change your life, he'd said. At the time, Clara had a steady job and a more stable life. She wasn't rich. She had no idea how quickly things would fall apart. That night, she decided to relax and forget her worries. Closing her eyes, she remembered what happened. The music was loud. The champagne was flowing. Clara was having a great time. She drank more than she should have. Then she noticed Liam for the first time. He seemed untouchable. Their eyes met. Something about him, maybe his smile or his overwhelming confidence, attracted her. Later that night, after laughing and talking, they ended up together. But the rest of the evening is a blur. She woke up alone the next morning, hungover and confused, with no clear memory of what had happened. Now, she is staring at the photo. Everything became clear 5 years ago. Shortly after the party, Clara found out she was pregnant. She didn't know who the father was. People around her dismissed it as just some stranger. But now it was all so clear. The man in the photo was Liam Donovan. His smile was the proof she had been searching for. Clara took a deep breath. He has to know, she thought. She felt afraid. Liam seemed so far out of reach. Powerful. And she was living on the streets. How could she ever approach him? And more importantly, how would he react? She felt doubtful. Would he believe her or dismiss her as someone trying to take advantage of him? She had an advantage because of his wealth. She looked at Mia and Luna, who were playing and laughing. They were unaware of all the turmoil. Clara knew that her love for her daughters was more important than any fear she might have felt. She knew she couldn't give up. She took the photo and put it in her pocket. She carefully stored the box, knowing it might contain more evidence. She looked in the direction she had last seen Liam go. I won't give up, she said, clenching her fist. With new determination, Clara decided to find Liam Donovan. He needed to know he had 2 daughters. The next day, Clara saw a newspaper headline on the street. Liam was going to an event at a fancy hotel in the city. When she arrived, she took a deep breath. Her fingers shook as she held the photo in her pocket. With the twins next to her, she walked into the big hall, ignoring the people staring at her, who were judging her. Clara was about to go to an event at a fancy hotel in the city. When she arrived, she took a deep breath. Her fingers shook as she held the photo in her pocket. With the twins with her, she walked into the big hall, ignoring the people looking at her. As soon as she entered, she saw Liam. He seemed untouchable, just as out of reach as she had imagined. Clara was determined. Mr. Donovan, she said. Her voice was steady, even though her heart was beating fast. Liam turned to her, frowning when he saw the thin, poorly dressed woman walking toward him. Before he could react, Clara continued. I need to talk to you. It's important. A quiet buzz of curiosity spread through the crowd. Clara stood her ground. She took the photo. She took something out of her pocket and held it out to Liam. We met 5 years ago at a party. You might not remember. She took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. These girls. She gestured to Mia and Luna, who were watching from a distance. Are they your daughters? The room fell silent. Everyone was looking at Liam, who blinked slowly, trying to understand what he had just heard. Is this a joke? He asked, his voice sounding surprised. No. It's not. I know it seems impossible. Look at them. You. Can you see it? They look like you. Clara insisted, trying to stay calm. Liam glanced briefly at the girls but quickly looked back at Clara. He let out a short, cold laugh. You really think you can walk in here? Excuse me. If I do, I'll just believe you. He stepped closer, lowering his voice but loud enough for those nearby to hear. I would never be with someone like you. This is ridiculous. Liam's words hit Clara like a punch to the gut. Her face burned as the murmurs the crowd around her grew louder. Look at them closely, Clara said, her voice now shaking. I'm not here for money. She continued. I'm here because they deserve to know who their father is. Liam crossed his arms and looked at her with disdain. I have no idea who you are. Frankly, I don't care. He said. Leave before I call security. The humiliation was overwhelming. Clara's eyes filled with tears. She refused to cry in front of everyone. She grabbed her daughter's hands and quickly left, hearing muffled laughter and mean comments from behind her. Liam tried to go back to talking with the guests. He felt confused. He remembered that night. At least parts of it. The drinks. Her face. Something about it wasn't completely erased from his memory. What bothered him more was the girls. When he looked at them, something inside him moved. The resemblance was obvious. As the evening went on, he realized he couldn't stop thinking about Clara and the girls. That woman could. Don't be a liar. Something about her seemed honest. That night, the first time in a long time, Liam couldn't sleep. He swirled the whiskey in his glass, watching the amber liquid catch the dim light of his office. 2 days had passed since the fight with Clara. Her words and the image of the girls still bothered him. Something in their eyes, in their resemblance to him, wouldn't let him rest. What if she's telling the truth? He thought. Frustrated with himself. He didn't trust anyone. He was often targeted by people who wanted to take advantage of his wealth. But he was unsure how to handle the situation. Liam picked up his phone and called a trusted private investigator. I need you to look into a woman and 2 kids, he said. Find out everything about her. Where she lives. Where she's from. Check if she really was at one of my parties 5 years ago. The investigator agreed right away. I'll get started right away. Mr. Donovan. 2 days later. The report was on Liam's desk. He opened the envelope with steady hands. He felt uneasy as he saw the stack of detailed documents. There were photos of Clara and her daughters. Notes about her daily routine. And, to his surprise, a section tracing her family background. Clara hadn't always been homeless. According to the report, she came from a stable, middle-class family. Her parents owned a small craft store. She had a relatively peaceful childhood. But 5 years ago, a tragedy struck. A fire destroyed her family's store, leaving her parents without income and deeply in debt. The financial and emotional strain led them to lose their home. Shortly after, they passed away, leaving Clara alone in the world. She lost everything. Liam. She lost everything, he murmured as he read. He turned to the next page and found a record that caught his attention. Clara had mutual friends with some of his old party acquaintances. In fact, she had attended one of his most 5 years ago. There were extravagant celebrations. Liam took a deep breath and closed the report. She had been at the party. There was no denying the connection anymore. He remembered how he had treated her during their public fight. The harsh words he had spoken came back to him like a punch. For the first time, he felt guilty. Clara didn't seem to be after money. There had been something genuine in her voice when she mentioned her daughters. The photos of the twins in the report confirmed what he had already begun to suspect, their eyes. Their smiles. It was like looking at a younger version of himself. Liam got up and started pacing in his office. Memories of that blurry night at the party began to form more clearly. He remembered being drunk, laughing with friends, seeing Clara. He vaguely recalled talking to her and being drawn to her genuine energy. Something rare in the circles he frequented. A younger version of himself. Liam got up and started pacing in his office. Memories of that blurry night at the party began to form more clearly. He remembered being drunk, laughing with friends, seeing Clara. He vaguely recalled talking to her and being drawn to her genuine energy. Something rare in the circles he frequented. How could I have forgotten, he thought. I know what I need to do. I can't undo how I treated her. Maybe I can make things right. Liam grabbed his phone and made a quick call. Find Clara. I want to know where she is now. As he waited for the information, Liam felt restless. This time, his approach would be different. He wasn't sure. How could I have forgotten? He knew what he needed to do. He couldn't change how he had treated her. Maybe he could make things right. Liam grabbed his phone and made a quick call. Find Clara. I want to know where she is now. As he waited for the information, Liam felt restless. This time, his approach would be different. He wasn't sure if he was ready to take on any responsibility. He needed to talk to Clara again. Clara adjusted the makeshift blankets around Mia and Luna as the girls slept. The nights on the street were cold and lonely. She did her best to keep them safe. But the confrontation with Liam still lingered in her mind. His cruel words echoed. Clara was ready to take on any responsibility. She needed to talk to Liam again. Clara adjusted the blankets around Mia and Luna as the girls slept. The nights on the street were cold and lonely. She did her best to keep them safe. The confrontation with Liam still lingered in her mind. His cruel words echoed, reminding her of her humiliation. Suddenly, hurried footsteps interrupted her thoughts. She turned quickly, pulling the girls closer. Then she saw him, Liam Donovan, impeccably dressed, standing in front of her. His face showed something Clara didn't expect: regret. Clara. I need to talk to you, he said. His voice softer. Clara stood up quickly, putting herself between Liam and the girls. What do you want now? She asked. Wasn't it enough to humiliate me in front of everyone? Liam took a deep breath, clearly uncomfortable. I was wrong. I was arrogant and cruel. I'm truly sorry. I had no right to treat you that way. Clara crossed her arms. Clara stood up quickly, putting herself between him and the girls. "What do you want now?" she asked. "Wasn't it enough to humiliate me in front of everyone?" Liam took a deep breath. Clearly uncomfortable. "I was wrong. I was arrogant. Cruel. I'm truly sorry. I had no right to treat you that way." Clara crossed her arms. Defensive. "And why should I believe you now?" Liam asked, hesitating for a moment before stepping closer. "I think you might be right. These girls might be my daughters. I want to make things right." Clara raised an eyebrow, surprised by his admission. "And how do you plan to do that? Do you think a few pretty words will work?" Liam asked. "Words won't change anything. I don't want your charity. We'll take care of the girls." Clara stood up, putting herself between him and the girls. "What do you want now? Wasn't it enough to embarrass me in front of everyone?" Liam took a deep breath. Clearly uncomfortable. "I was wrong. I was arrogant and cruel. I'm truly sorry. I had no right to treat you that way. Words won't change anything. No. I want to offer a way to change your situation. I want you and the girls to leave the streets and come live with me. I have plenty of space in my home." Clara let out a short, bitter laugh. "You think you can just buy our trust? That I'll accept help from someone who called me a liar and an opportunist? No. That's not it. I'm not trying to buy anything. I just want to help." Clara stared at him for a long moment, fighting against the memories of his previous words. She didn't know if she could trust him. Her first instinct was to refuse. "I don't need your charity. We'll have Mia and Luna." Clara stood up, putting herself between him and the girls. "What do you want now?" she asked. "Wasn't it enough to humiliate me in front of everyone?" Liam took a deep breath. Clearly uncomfortable. "I was wrong. I was arrogant and cruel. I'm truly sorry. I had no right to treat you that way." The girl who had woken up during the conversation looked curiously at Liam. The two girls moved closer, fascinated by the elegant man who seemed so different from everything they knew. "Are you the man from the party?" Mia asked, her eyes sparkling. Liam crouched down to their level, a gentle smile forming on his face. "Maybe I am. What are your names?" Clara asked, her voice firm. "I'm Mia." "She's Luna," the little girl said, pointing to her sister. Liam looked at them more closely, feeling a tightening in his chest. It was impossible to deny they had his features. The girl started chatting with him, clearly captivated by his presence. Clara watched from a distance, torn between suspicion and the hope of giving her daughter something she couldn't provide herself. "I'm Mia." "She's Luna," the little girl said, pointing to her sister. Hope of giving her daughter something she couldn't provide herself. "You look like a prince." "Did you know that?" Luna said, making Liam laugh for the first time in days. Clara sighed. As much as she wanted to stand her ground, she couldn't ignore the light in her daughter's eyes. They deserved more. So much more. Liam stood again. "I need some time to think." Liam nodded, respecting her decision. "That's fine. When you're ready, I'll be here." He left a card with her and walked away. Clara's gaze stayed fixed on the twins, who still seemed. Clara stood up instinctively, placing herself between him and the girls. "What do you want now? Wasn't it enough to humiliate me in front of everyone?" Liam took a deep breath. clearly uncomfortable. I was wrong. I was arrogant and cruel. I'm truly sorry. I had no right to treat you that way. Clara crossed her arms. Think now. More firmly. Think about what's best for them. Clara. I'm not asking you to trust me right now. I'm just offering a chance for you all to have a safe place. Clara didn't respond immediately. The idea of living in his mansion felt absurd. At the same time, her conscience weighed on her. Was it fair to let pride keep her from? Clara stood up, putting herself between Liam and the girls. What do you want now? She asked. Wasn't it enough to humiliate me in front of everyone? Liam took a deep breath. Clearly uncomfortable. I was wrong. I was arrogant and cruel. I'm truly sorry. I had no right to treat you that way. Clara crossed her arms, looking at her daughters and then back at Liam. I need some time to think, she finally said. Liam nodded, respecting her decision. That's fine. When you're ready, I'll be here. He left a card with her and walked away. Clara's gaze stayed fixed on the twins, who still seemed. Clara stood up quickly, putting herself between him and the girls. What do you want now? She asked. Wasn't it enough to humiliate me in front of everyone? Liam took a deep breath. Clearly uncomfortable. I was wrong. I was arrogant and cruel. I'm truly sorry. I had no right to treat you that way. Enchanted by the man they had just met, Clara felt the warmth of Mia and Luna's small hands clutching hers as they walked toward Liam Donovan's mansion. She still couldn't believe she'd agreed to his offer. The decision was made for her daughter's sake. It didn't ease the knot of anxiety in her stomach. Her chest. This looks like a castle. Mom, Mia exclaimed, her eyes wide as she spotted the grand mansion ahead. Do you think we'll have a room just for us? Luna asked. Clara forced a smile for her daughters. Trying to ignore her own unease, the main gate opened smoothly. Liam was at the door to greet them. He was wearing a simple. Clara stood up, putting herself between him and the girls. What do you want now? She asked. Wasn't it enough to humiliate me in front of everyone? Liam took a deep breath. Clearly uncomfortable. I was wrong. I was arrogant and cruel. I'm truly sorry. I had no right to treat you that way. Clara crossed her arms. Her sweater made him seem more approachable, less distant. Welcome, he said, motioning for them to come in. Clara hesitated for a moment but stepped inside with the girls. The interior was even more luxurious than she'd imagined, gleaming marble floors, enormous chandeliers, furniture that radiated elegance. It was a stark contrast. This is very different from the alleyways where she and her daughters had lived, Liam said. You can pick any room you want for the girls. And there's a room set aside for you, Clara added. She nodded, not knowing what to say. The twins quickly adapted to their new surroundings. They ran through the hallways, laughed in the big gardens, seemed to forget, at least for a while, the hard times they had faced. Clara, however, struggled to feel at ease. The mansion's walls felt like they were always watching her. She spent most of her time close to the girls, making sure they knew they could still rely on her. Despite the luxury that surrounded them, she made sure they knew she was still there for them. Liam gave Clara her space. He watched her closely. He saw something in her that he hadn't noticed in anyone else, an unshakable strength. Despite everything she'd been through, Clara was a devoted mother who prioritized her daughter's well-being. Liam found her in the kitchen one evening, preparing something simple for Mia and Luna. She looked uncomfortable in the kitchen, which was clearly not her space. Her expression was peaceful as she took care of the girls. "You don't have to do that," Liam said, leaning against the doorway. "There are staff to handle these things." Clara turned, surprised by his presence. "I know. I prefer to do it. It's the only thing that makes me feel useful here." Liam stayed quiet for a moment, watching her work carefully. He'd never met anyone like her. Like her. "Clara. I want you to know that this doesn't have to be temporary. If you want to stay here, you'll have all the support you need." She looked at him, her expression guarded. "You said this was temporary. That's how it should be. I don't want the girls to think this is permanent." "Why not?" Liam asked, genuinely curious. Clara hesitated. She didn't know how to explain that the luxury now surrounding her felt like a dream, too distant for someone like her. "Because this isn't our reality," she said, turning her attention back to what she was doing. Liam wanted to say more. He decided not to. That night, after putting the girls to bed, Clara went out into the garden for some fresh air. The sky was clear. The stars sparkled like diamonds. Liam appeared moments later, carrying 2 cups of tea. He walked up to her quietly and handed her one. "I thought you might like this," he said. "Thank you," Clara replied hesitantly. The two sat in silence for a while, watching the sky. The first time, Liam felt the need to talk about something other than business or responsibilities. "Clara. I admire what you're doing," he said. "You've done a lot for your daughters. Very few people would have the strength you've shown." She looked at him, surprised. "I don't know if it's strength. I think it's just love. Love might be the greatest strength of all," Liam said, lowering his gaze. It was a brief moment. Something shifted between them that night. A silent exchange of respect. A small step towards something neither of them expected. The days in the mansion began to take on a peculiar rhythm. Mia and Luna seemed happier than ever, running through the gardens and exploring every corner. Clara still had her doubts. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't forget the mean things Liam said to her during their first fight. Here's a fun challenge for those reading the comments: type pizza and the comments if you've read this far. Let's continue with the story. Even so, something about him seemed different now. Liam was more present, more attentive. Made a point to spend time with the girls whenever he could. It was nearly impossible for Clara to ignore the way he smiled at Mia and Luna's laughter and how interested he was in being part of their daily routines. One morning, while Clara was in the garden reading a story to her daughters, Liam appeared carrying a bucket and a small ball. "I thought we could play something," he said, motioning to the girls. "How about a treasure hunt?" Mia and Luna squealed with excitement, jumping up immediately. "Yes. Let's go, Mommy," they called, tugging at Clara's hand. Clara hesitated. Her daughter's enthusiasm was contagious. She gave in and joined the game. They spent the morning playing together, hiding and searching for clues, laughing more than Clara thought possible. The first time, she saw a kinder side of Liam. A side that seemed less scary and more human. When they finally finished, Mia hugged Liam tightly. "You're so much fun. You know that," she said. Smiling. Liam glanced at Clara as if seeking her approval. She averted her gaze. Still hesitant to trust him completely. Later. As Clara was tidying up the toys. The girls had left scattered in the garden. Liam approached her again. You don't have to do everything alone, he said. Sounding worried. Clara looked up. Surprised. I'm used to it, she said. That's just how it's always been. But it doesn't have to be that way anymore. Liam replied firmly. She sighed. Setting the toys aside. Liam. I appreciate what you're doing. For us. It's easy. I still have trouble trusting Liam. She nodded. Understanding what she had said. I know I've been mean and there's still a lot we need to work through. But. Clara. I want you to know that now I want to help not just the girls. You too. Clara looked at him. Feeling conflicted. On one hand. She still felt pain from her past. On the other. She was starting to see Liam differently. We'll see, she said. Avoiding a bigger commitment. Liam didn't say more. A small smile appeared on his face. He knew he had taken an important step. Night. Clara tucked Maya and Luna into bed. The girls started whispering to each other. Mommy. Why doesn't Liam sleep in our room? Luna asked innocently. Clara chuckled. Surprised by the question. Because he has his own room. Sweetheart. But he seems to like you. Maya said with a mischievous smile. Clara tucked Maya and Luna into bed. The girls started whispering to each other. Mommy. Why doesn't Liam sleep in our room? Luna asked innocently. Sweetheart. He seems to like you, Clara said. Surprised. You two have such vivid imaginations, Maya added. Now go to sleep. All right, Clara said. The girls giggled softly. Obeyed. As Clara watched them drift off. Her thoughts wandered. No matter how much she tried to deny it. Something inside her was beginning to change. Clara woke up early. The first rays of sunlight were streaming through the heavy curtains of the room she and the girls shared. That it was a strange contrast to the cold streets they had lived on for so long, but even though she was comfortable. Her mind was restless. Liam's words from the past days were still running through her thoughts. She felt distrust while she was making breakfast for Maya and Luna. She heard voices from the mansion's entrance hall. Clara recognized Liam's tone. The other voice was unfamiliar. She walked toward the sound in the entrance hall. A tall woman with perfectly styled hair and a dress that exuded sophistication stood facing Liam. She looked furious at us. Oh, it's true, the woman said. Her tone dripping with disdain. You really brought a beggar and her children into your home. Clara stopped in the hallway. Hidden behind the door, the words cut deep. She couldn't bring herself to move. Vivian. This is none of your business. Business. Liam replied. Annoyed. Vivian laughed. It was a dry, cruel sound. None of my business. Liam. Please. You know perfectly well that your decisions affect more than just you. Everyone's talking about it. A man like you taking them in. It's more than a little suspicious. I don't care what people think. Liam shot back, crossing his arms. Since when are you so noble? Vivian mocked. It's not like you. Unless you have some ulterior motive for doing this. Liam sighed, running a hand through his hair. I'm not going to argue with you. You don't know anything about Clara or the girls. Clara. You're already on a first. She was angry. She was distrustful. She was setting breakfast for Maya and Luna. She heard voices coming from the mansion's foyer. Clara recognized Liam's tone. The other voice was unfamiliar. Curious. She walked toward the sound. In the foyer, a tall woman with perfectly styled hair and a dress that exuded name basis. How sweet. Liam. But don't fool yourself. She's taking advantage of you. You're letting her. Clara felt her heart race. Vivian's words echoed in her mind, mixing with her own lingering doubts. That's enough. Vivian. Liam said firmly. I made my decision. I'm not going to change it because of your opinion. Now. If you have nothing else. She hesitated, unsure what to do. Vivian. You can leave. Liam lifted his chin, clearly offended. I hope you know what you're doing. This will cost you dearly. She walked off with determined steps, her heels clicking loudly down the hallway. Clara, still hidden, felt a mix of anger and shame. Was that what people thought of her? That she was just using Liam? Liam stood. She stood in the foyer for a few moments before turning around. His eyes met Clara's. He realized she had heard everything. You heard that? He asked directly. Yes, Clara replied in a low voice. Liam sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. Don't listen to her. Vivian loves meddling in things that don't concern her. Clara crossed her arms, trying to mask the. She felt uneasy. Maybe she's right. Maybe you're risking too much by keeping us here. Liam frowned, clearly frustrated. Don't say that. I brought you here because I wanted to help. I don't care what others think. That's easy for you to say. Clara retorted. But I know how you looked at me at first. I know what you thought of me. Liam hesitated. She felt uneasy. I was wrong. I'm trying to make up for that. Before Clara could respond, Mia and Luna came running down the hallway, interrupting the conversation. Liam. Look what we made. Luna said, holding up a piece of paper covered in colorful drawings. This is amazing. You two are such talented artists. The girls laughed and hugged him, filling the whole hallway with their joy. Clara watched the scene, feeling a tightness in her chest. As much as she tried to keep her emotional distance, it was impossible to deny the bond forming between Liam and her daughters. You seem like a daddy. You know, Mia said, looking up at Liam with admiration. Clara felt her cheeks flush. She heard voices in the foyer of the mansion. One voice was familiar. The other was not. It was Liam. He laughed. Clara felt like crying. Liam said, I really like you girls. He hugged them. Clara looked away. She thought about what could happen. What if he really could be the father her girls never had? Later that night, while tucking Mia and Luna into bed, Luna was already. She felt uneasy. She heard voices in the foyer of the mansion. One voice was familiar. The other was not. She walked toward the sound. In the foyer, a tall woman with perfectly styled hair and a dress that exuded sleepy asked a question that Clara wasn't prepared for. Mom. Is Liam going to be our dad? Clara froze, caught off guard. Why do you think that? Sweetheart, she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Because he's nice. He likes us. Clara stroked her daughter's hair but didn't answer. When the room finally grew quiet, Clara sat on the couch, lost in thought. Vivian still thought about the mean things Liam had said. She also thought about the things he had done in the past few days. He was trying. That much was clear. Could she trust that he was truly changing? Was this just a temporary illusion? Could this disappear as quickly as it had appeared? She sighed and stared at the ceiling. The first time in years. She felt like she was about to make a decision that could change everything. In the days that followed, Clara noticed that Liam tried to be part of the girls' lives. He sat with them during meals, played in the garden, even helped with their schoolwork. Clara, however, remained cautious. Every gesture of his seemed genuine. She still had concerns that it might not last. One afternoon, while Clara was folding the girls' clothes, Liam appeared in the doorway. He looked hesitant, which was unusual for him. "Clara, do you have a moment?" he asked. His voice softer than usual. "Of course." "What's going on?" she replied, setting the pile of clothes aside. Liam stepped in, stopping a few steps away from her. "I've been thinking a lot about everything about you. The girls. What happened in the past?" Clara crossed her arms, trying to hide the tension growing in her chest. "What have you decided?" He took a deep breath, as if carefully choosing his words. "I want you to know that I'm here for you all. Not just because of what happened that night or because they might be my daughters. The past." Clara crossed her arms, trying to hide the tension in her chest. "What have you decided?" He took a deep breath, as if carefully choosing his words. "I want you to know that I'm here for you all. Not just because of what happened that night or because they might be my daughters. Because I want to be part of your lives." Clara felt her heart race. She kept her posture firm. "It's easy to say that, Liam. Words sound nice. They don't fix everything." "I know," he replied, stepping closer. "That's why I'm willing to prove it." Before Clara could respond, Mia and Luna burst into the room, interrupting the moment. "Mom. Liam. Let's play in the yard," Luna shouted. Tugging on his hand, Liam looked at Clara, silently asking for permission. She nodded that I in the yard. Clara watched from a distance as Liam played with the girls. They laughed and ran around him, their joy evident. Clara felt something change inside. She wanted to be negative. She couldn't ignore how good Liam was for their daughter. Later, after the girls went to their room, Clara sat on the couch in the living room. Liam came in a few minutes later with 2 cups of tea. Clara looked away, feeling her face flush. "I just did what needed to be done," Liam said, leaning forward. "You're strong, Clara. I want to help you see that." Clara remained silent, processing his words. "Mom. Let's play in the yard," Luna shouted, tugging on his hand. Liam looked at Clara, silently asking for permission. She nodded. In the yard, Clara watched from a distance as Liam played with the girls. They laughed and ran around him, their joy evident. He placed one in front of her and sat in the armchair nearby. "I thought you might want something warm," he said casually. Clara picked up the cup, nodding in thanks. The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It felt as though they were both gathering the courage to say something. "Why are you doing all this?" Liam finally asked. breaking the quiet. "Because I admire you," Clara replied. Her voice raised. "Admire," he confirmed. "Yes." She confirmed. "You've been through things that would have broken many people. You're—" Clara looked away, feeling her face flush. "I just did what needed to be done," Liam said, leaning forward. "You're strong, Clara. I want to help you see that." Clara remained silent, processing his words. "Still here, fighting for your daughters," he continued. "That's something few people would do. I just did what needed to be done." Clara thought to herself. In the yard, Clara watched from a distance as Liam played with the girls. They laughed and ran around him, their joy evident. "Liam, let's play in the yard," Luna shouted, tugging on his hand. Liam looked at Clara, silently asking for permission. She nodded. "You're strong, Clara. And I want to help you see that," Liam said, leaning forward. Clara was surprised by what she heard. The next day, she went to the office to talk to Liam. "Liam, can we talk?" she asked. He looked up, surprised, nodded. "Sure, Clara," Luna shouted, tugging on his hand. Liam looked at Clara, silently asking for permission. She nodded. In the yard, Clara watched from a distance as Liam played with the girls. They laughed and ran around him, their joy evident. It was the first time anyone had said something like that to her. It stirred feelings she didn't expect. That night, Clara had trouble sleeping. Liam's words echoed in her mind. She couldn't stop wondering. What if he really meant it? What if he truly wanted to be part of their lives? As the stars shone outside, Clara made a decision. Maybe it was time to lower her defenses a little and let Liam prove himself. The next day, Clara found him in the office, reviewing some documents. "Liam, can we talk?" she asked, stepping in cautiously. He looked up, surprised, nodded. "Sure, Clara." Luna shouted, "Mom, let's play in the yard," and tugged on Liam's hand. Liam looked at Clara, silently asking for permission. She nodded. In the yard, Clara watched from a distance as Liam played with the girls. They laughed and ran around him, their joy evident. Clara approached and stopped beside the desk. "I don't know how this will end. I think I'm willing to try trusting you for the girls' sake." Liam's face lit up with a genuine smile. "That's all I could ever ask for." The first time, Clara felt that maybe they could find a path forward together. The evening began with a mix of nervousness and excitement. Clara hesitated to accept Liam's invitation to the company party. Now stood beside him, wearing an elegant blue dress he had chosen. Every step into the luxurious hall felt like a challenge. She could feel the stares fixed on her. "You look amazing," Liam whispered, holding her hand firmly. "I hope you don't regret bringing me here," Clara replied, trying to sound confident, though her eyes betrayed her unease. "Never," he assured her with a smile that seemed to ease some of her tension. The relief was short-lived. As they walked through the hall, Clara noticed the mean comments people made about her. They looked at her as if she didn't belong. Liam introduced her to a small group of colleagues. The conversation seemed friendly at first. Then one of the men, an older executive named Howard, said something rude. Liam decided to dedicate herself to charity projects. Howard said, looking directly at Clara. She felt her face flush. She stayed quiet. Liam narrowed his eyes, visibly irritated. What are you talking about? Howard. Oh. Come on. We all know she was a person who came from a humble background. Howard chuckled. A few others in the group joined in. You've always liked challenges. This one is a first for you. Clara tried to stay calm. Her heart was beating rapidly. Before she could respond, Liam stepped forward. What did? Howard. Oh. Come on. We all know she was a person with humble beginnings. Howard chuckled. Joined by a few others in the group. You've always liked challenges. This one is a first for you. Clara tried to stay calm. Her heart was pounding in her chest. Before she could respond, Liam stepped forward. What did you just say? He asked. His voice firm. Almost threatening. Howard shrugged. Feigning indifference. I'm just joking. Liam. No need to take it so seriously. Let's be honest. She's not exactly the kind of person we'd expect to see by your side. Liam let out a short laugh. Though there was no humor in it. Who do you think you are to decide? Who do you think you are to decide who should or shouldn't be with me? The group fell silent. Visibly uncomfortable with Liam's tone that he continued. His voice rising slightly. Drawing the attention of other guests, Clara is stronger and more worthy than anyone here. She's been through things you couldn't even imagine. Yet she's still standing. So before you open your mouth. Who should or shouldn't be by my side? The group fell silent. Clearly uncomfortable with Liam's tone. He continued. His voice rising slightly. Drawing the attention of the other guests. Clara is stronger and more worthy than anyone here. She's been through things you couldn't even imagine. Yet she's still standing. So. Before you open your mouth to say something about her. Take a good look at yourselves. I bet none of you would last even a day in her shoes. Clara stood quietly. Trying to contain her emotions. No one had ever defended her like that before. Later. As Clara was still processing the discomfort caused by the comments. Another unwelcome figure appeared, Victoria. Liam's ex. She looked at them and said. Make the statement. Well. 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 If it isn't the great Liam Donovan and his special companion. Clara immediately understood the mocking tone. Victoria. I don't think now's the time for sarcastic remarks. Liam said. Clearly irritated. Victoria ignored him and turned directly to Clara. It's amazing what some people will do to climb the social ladder. Isn't it? You must be a real inspiration for stories of overcoming the odds. Clara felt anger rising. She refused to stay silent. Maybe I am an inspiration. Victoria. Do you know why? I don't need to step on others to feel important. Victoria looked visibly upset. Clara didn't stop. You act like you're better than everyone else. What have you really done to deserve being here? From what I see, the only reason you're still relevant is because of your connection to Liam. It must be hard not to shine on your own. An awkward silence settled over the group watching. Victoria tried to stay calm. She couldn't think of what to say. Liam looked at Clara with a mix of admiration and pride. I think she made her point, he said. Taking Clara's hand. Maybe you should find another group to impress. Victoria walked away. Clearly upset. When the party finally ended, Clara was exhausted. In the car, she remained silent, thinking about everything that had happened. Liam tried to start a conversation a few times. She only responded with short answers. Once they got home, Clara went straight to the garden. Liam followed her, worried. "What's going on?" Clara asked. "You were incredible tonight." She turned to him. Her eyes showed her emotions. "This isn't going to work," Liam said, frowning. "What do you mean?" "I don't belong in this world," Clara said, her voice shaking. "You saw how they looked at me. How they talked about me. It's always going to be like that. I don't care what they think." "But I do," Liam said firmly. "I don't," Clara replied, crying. Liam's hands held Clara's as he moved closer to her. "I don't want to be the person who causes you trouble. I don't want to be the reason you have to deal with stares and comments every day." "Liam. Please don't," she said, trying to look away. He held her face and made her look at him. "Clara. You're not a problem. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me. I'm falling in love with you, Clara. More every day. And tonight. You made me prouder than ever." Before she could respond, Liam leaned in and kissed her. The kiss was intense. It was as if he were trying to convey everything he felt without words. When they pulled apart, Clara looked at him, trying to understand what had just happened. "Don't say anything," Liam interrupted, smiling. "Just trust me." The next morning, Clara woke before sunrise. Liam's kiss was still fresh in her memory. Along with it came the same unease. She wanted to believe his words. She still felt like an outsider in Liam's world. She was making coffee when she heard footsteps in the hallway. Liam appeared in the kitchen, looking relaxed. "Good morning," he said, leaning against the counter. Clara simply nodded, focusing on pouring the coffee. The silence between them was awkward. Liam noticed right away. "Is everything okay?" he asked, trying to figure out what was wrong. She set the cup down on the table with more force than she intended. Turning to face him. "Liam. We need to talk," she said. He sighed, crossing his arms. "I thought we finished this conversation last night." "It's not finished," Clara replied firmly. "What happened at the party made one thing clear to me: no matter how much you say you don't care what others think, the people around you won't change." Liam stepped closer, frustration evident in his eyes. "And why does that matter?" "Clara. I chose you, not them. Because I don't want to be the reason you lose their respect. I don't want you to have to fight every time someone makes a comment about me." Liam moved closer and took her hands firmly in his. "Clara. I don't care what those people think. Howard. Victoria. All of them. They're irrelevant. What matters to me is you and the girls. You're my priority now." Clara heard his words. The weight of their differences still haunted her. "And what if that's not enough?" she asked. Liam moved closer and took her hands. "Listen, Clara. I don't care what those people think. Howard. Victoria. All of them. They're irrelevant. What matters to me is you and the girls. You're my priority now." Clara heard his words. She was still worried about their differences. "And what if that's not enough?" she asked, lowering her eyes. "Then I'll prove that it is." Liam said with determination. Later. As Clara played in the garden with Mia and Luna. The sound of tires on gravel caught her attention. She looked toward the driveway and saw a black car pulling up. A man stepped out. Clara immediately recognized Howard. The colleague who had made cruel remarks at the party. Clara frowned as he approached. Howard. What are you doing here? She asked. Trying to stay calm. He smiled. His tone was just as condescending as it had been at the party. Clara. Right. I thought I'd stop by to clear the air. I didn't mean to offend you last night. You know how it is. Sometimes Clara frowned as he approached. What are you doing here? She asked. Trying to stay calm. I just wanted to clear the air, he said. Smiling. I didn't mean to offend you last night. Sometimes words come out wrong. Clara crossed her arms. She didn't believe his explanation. There's no need to pretend, she said. I know exactly what you meant. He replied with that same irritating smile. You're sharp. I'm just saying. Liam might want to think twice before getting too involved. People like you tend to complicate things. Before Clara could respond, Liam appeared on the porch. Watching the scene, he quickly descended the steps. His face dark. Howard. What are you doing here? He asked. His voice icy. Howard. Raising his hands in mock surrender. Just having a friendly chat with Clara. If you think threatening or belittling her is friendly, then you don't. Do you know anything about me? Liam said. Stepping between Clara and Howard, let me make this clear, if you ever speak to Clara or the girls like this again, you'll have to deal with me directly. Howard looked uncomfortable but tried to hide it. That I didn't mean to offend anyone, that I'm just thinking about what's best for everyone. It would be better for everyone if you stayed out of my life and Clara's. Liam shot back, now leave before I have you escorted off the property. Howard gave a forced smile before turning back to his car. Think about it, Liam, you can still change your mind. As he drove away, Clara let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Liam. Before Clara could answer, Liam came out on the porch. Seeing the whole scene, he quickly went down the steps. His face looked serious. What are you doing here? He asked. His voice cold. I'm just having a friendly chat with Clara, Howard said, raising his hands in a mock surrender. If you think threatening or belittling her is friendly, then you don't. He turned to her, clearly upset. I'm sorry about that. I don't know why I came here. Clara shook her head, still trying to understand what had happened. This is exactly what I was afraid of, Liam said. These people won't stop. I won't stop defending you, he replied. Stepping closer, Clara felt his determination. It wasn't enough. I don't want you to live like this. Liam, you have your reputation. Your business, none of that means more to me than you and the girls. He interrupted, holding her shoulders. Don't you see that? She looked into his eyes, searching for any hint of hesitation. Found none. Liam was resolute. It left her. Clara was surprised. What are you doing here? She asked Liam. Just having a friendly chat with Clara, he replied. If you think threatening or belittling her is friendly, then you don't. Without words, Clara admitted, her voice breaking. I know. We're not giving up on each other. Not now, he said, leaning in to kiss her again, as if to reinforce everything he had said. This time, Clara didn't resist. She allowed the moment to envelop her. She was still full of doubts. She felt a spark of hope. Before Clara could answer, Liam came out on the porch. Seeing the whole scene, he quickly went down the steps. His face looked serious. "Howard. What are you doing here?" he asked. His voice was cold. "Howard. I'm just having a friendly chat with Clara," he said. "If you think threatening or belittling her is friendly, then you don't. Maybe this could work." The days after the fight with Howard were surprising for Clara. While she continued to worry about her insecurities, she couldn't deny that Liam was doing everything he could to show that he truly cared about her and the girls. One afternoon, as Clara was making a snack, before Clara could respond, Liam appeared on the porch. Watching the scene, he quickly descended the steps. His face was dark. "What are you doing here?" he asked. His voice icy. "I'm just having a friendly chat with Clara," Howard replied, raising his hands in mock surrender. "If you think threatening or belittling her is friendly, then you don't." In the kitchen, Liam walked in with a relaxed smile, holding something behind his back. "Do you have a minute?" he asked, approaching slowly. "That depends. What are you hiding back there?" Clara replied, suspicious but smiling. "Just a little gift," he said, revealing a perfectly bloomed red rose. Clara laughed, surprised by the simplicity. Before Clara could answer, Liam came out on the porch. Seeing the situation, he quickly went down the steps. His face looked serious. "What are you doing here?" he asked. His voice cold. "I'm just having a friendly chat with Clara," Howard said, raising his hands in a mock surrender. "If you think threatening or belittling her is friendly, then you don't understand. What's gotten into you?" "Liam Donovan. I didn't know you had a romantic side." "I'm learning," he replied, handing her the flower. "I just want you to know I'm willing to do whatever it takes to win you over." Clara didn't say anything, holding the rose as her heart began to race. "You don't have to do these things, Liam. I already know how you feel, maybe I don't have to. I want you to know every single day how much you mean to me." Before Clara could respond, Liam leaned in and kissed her. It was a kiss that made her forget everything else around her. Later that same afternoon, Liam suggested something new. "What if we did something?" Before Clara could respond, Liam appeared on the porch. Watching the scene, he quickly descended the steps. His face was dark. "What are you doing here?" he asked. His voice icy. "Howard. I'm just having a friendly chat with Clara. If you think threatening or belittling her is friendly, then you don't. Together as a family," he said, as Mia and Luna played in the garden. "What about a picnic, just the four of us, somewhere special?" Clara asked, curious. A few hours later, they were sitting on the grass in. Liam appeared on the porch. He was watching the scene. He quickly went down the steps. His face looked angry. "Howard. What are you doing here?" he asked. His voice sounded cold. Howard raised his hands in a mock surrender. "I'm just having a friendly chat with Clara," he said. "If you think threatening or belittling her is friendly, then you don't." Liam had prepared everything in a quiet area near the mansion. There were trees around it. He spread out a blanket. He filled a basket with sandwiches, fruit, juice. He even put a small radio softly playing music in the background. Mia and Luna were thrilled. They ran around and laughed as Liam tried to teach them how to make paper airplanes. Clara, sitting under a tree. She watched the scene with a smile. "You're great with them," she said to Liam, who was sitting next to her. He was exhausted after chasing the girls. "They're amazing. It's impossible not to love them," he replied, grabbing a strawberry from the basket. Clara felt a lump in her throat. Liam was. He was becoming an important figure in Mia and Luna's lives. It scared and comforted her. "I think you've won over more than just me," she said, pointing to the girls. Liam laughed. Quickly grew serious. "I love them so much," Clara said. His words hit her deep. But she didn't know how to respond. Mia and Luna ran up to them. "Mom." "Look," Luna said, holding up a piece of paper. "You're learning fast," Clara replied. Laughing that he's the best, Mia added. Hugging Liam. He hugged her back. Smiling at Clara over the girl's shoulders. "I think I could get used to this," he said playfully. Clara just smiled. Inside she felt her heart open a little more to him that evening. After putting the girls to bed, Clara and Liam sat in the garden under the stars. The silence between them was comfortable. Their closeness felt natural. "I never imagined I never imagined I could have something like this," Clara said, gazing up at the sky. "You deserve all of it," Liam said, taking her hand. "More than anyone," he added. She turned to look at him, noticing the intensity in his eyes. "Sometimes it still feels like a dream," she admitted. Liam leaned in gently. "I want to give you and the girls everything I can," Liam said, grinning. "A family. Happy moments. You deserve all of it, Clara. More than anyone. Sometimes it still feels like a dream," she admitted. "I'll make sure to remind you every day that it's real." He kissed her again. This time the kiss was slower, full of emotion. "Clara. You feel as if the weight of your past is fading away, replaced by something you've never felt before, hope." The next day, Liam suggested another surprise. "Clara. I've been thinking, why don't we take a trip somewhere peaceful? Just the four of us," Clara laughed, shaking her head. "You don't stop, do you?" "Not at all," he replied with a grin. "I want to give you and the girls everything I can." Clara hesitated. When she saw Mia and Luna's excited smiles, she knew she couldn't say no. "Okay, Liam, but nothing too extravagant." He pretended to be offended. "Me? Extravagant? Never." The room filled with laughter. Clara realized that, the first time in a long while, she felt genuinely happy. Let's play a little game with the readers of the comments section. Type Coca-Cola in the comments if you've read this far. Only those who made it here will get it. Now, let's continue with the story. The next day, Clara was in the mansion's garden, watching Mia and Luna play with Liam. The day was peaceful, with the sun shining and a gentle breeze rustling the trees. It was hard to believe how much her life had changed in recent days. Months passed, though she still had doubts about her place in Liam's world. Each day by his side seemed to strengthen the bond between them. Suddenly, Luna stopped running and looked at Liam, laughing. "Daddy, catch us!" she shouted with the spontaneity only a child could have. Clara froze when she heard the word. She saw Liam stop for a moment, surprised before breaking. "A family. Happy moments. You deserve all of it," Clara said, gazing up at the sky. "You more than anyone," Liam said, taking her hand. She turned to look at him, noticing the intensity in his eyes. Sometimes it still feels like a dream, she admitted. Liam leaned in. Gently. Smiled broadly. Yeah. Daddy. You're the best daddy in the world, Mia laughed. Liam knelt down, opening his arms for the girls, who ran straight to him. He hugged them tightly, his eyes glistening with emotion. You have no idea how much that means to me, he said, his voice full of emotion. Clara, watching the scene from afar, felt her eyes. This could be something like this, Clara said, looking up at the sky. A family. Happy moments. You deserve all of it, Clara. More than anyone. You're right, Liam said, taking her hand. She turned to look at him, noticing the intensity in his eyes. Sometimes it still feels like a dream, she admitted. It's a moment I never imagined witnessing. The girls finally had a father. Someone who loved them deeply and made sure to show it every day. Later, Liam found Clara in the garden while the girls were busy drawing. He approached her, his smile still lingering. Did you hear that? He asked. I did, Clara replied with a small smile. I never. This could be our family, Clara said, looking up at the sky. Happy moments. You deserve all of it, Liam said, taking her hand. She turned to look at him, noticing the intensity in his eyes. Sometimes it still feels like a dream, she admitted. Liam leaned in gently. Thought hearing that would feel so special. They called me Daddy. That's because you've always been their father. You just didn't realize it yet. Liam held Clara's hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. Thank you for letting me be part of this. Clara just smiled. Inside she felt something warm growing in her heart. The days that followed were filled with they were getting more and more intimate and loving. Clara. Liam. The girls had dinner together every night. Played in the garden. Even started a tradition of family movie nights on Saturdays. Clara realized that Liam's world, which had been so distant and intimidating, was starting to blend with hers. One evening, after the girls were tucked into bed. Liam. You've changed my life in ways I never imagined possible, Clara said, gazing up at the sky. You've brought love and meaning to my life and given me something I didn't even know I needed, a family. A family. Happy moments. You deserve all of it, Clara. More than anyone, Liam said, taking her hand. She turned to look at him, noticing the intensity in his eyes. Sometimes it still feels like a dream, she admitted. I'll meet you in the garden, Liam asked. When she arrived, she found the space illuminated with string lights hanging from the trees. A table was carefully set with soft music playing in the background. What's going on? Clara asked, surprised. Just a special dinner, Liam said, smiling as he guided her to the table. They talked about everything from Clara's past. Clara said, looking up at the sky, a family. Happy moments. You deserve all of it, Clara. More than anyone, Liam said, taking her hand. You're more than anyone else. She turned to look at him, noticing the intensity in his eyes. Sometimes it still feels like a dream, she admitted. Liam leaned in gently, talking about Liam's dreams for the future. The atmosphere was intimate. Clara felt completely at ease with him. When dessert arrived, Liam stood up and took her hand, helping her to her feet as well. Clara, you've changed my life in ways I never imagined possible. You've brought love and meaning to my life and given me something I didn't even know I needed, a family. Clara felt her heart beating faster as she listened to Liam's words. He took out a small box and got down on one knee in front of her. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me? Clara looked at him, feeling many emotions. Tears fell from her face as she nodded her head, yes, many times. Yes. Liam. Of course I will. Liam put the ring on her finger. Onto her finger and kissed her. In the distance, they heard the excited applause of Mia and Luna, who had been hiding the entire time. Months later, the wedding day finally arrived. The ceremony was held in the mansion's gardens. Decorated with white flowers and delicate lights, Clara wore an elegant yet simple dress that highlighted her natural beauty. Liam, in a black suit, couldn't take his eyes off her as she walked toward him. Mia and Luna served as flower girls, carrying the rings with radiant smiles. When Clara and Liam stood face to face, he held her hands tightly. You look beautiful, he whispered. And you look perfect. Clara replied with a smile. The vows were heartfelt, leaving no guest with dry eyes. When the ceremony ended, everyone celebrated together. Clara and Liam were standing in the corner of the garden. He was wearing a black suit. He couldn't take his eyes off her as she walked toward him. Mia and Luna were flower girls. They carried the rings with radiant smiles. When Clara and Liam stood face to face, he held her hands tightly. You look beautiful, he whispered. And you look perfect. Clara replied with a smile. The vows were heartfelt, leaving no guest with dry eyes. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, the applause was deafening. Clara and Liam kissed under the adoring gazes of Mia and Luna, who ran around them celebrating their new family. During the reception, Clara looked happier than ever. Liam pulled her onto the dance floor, where they danced under the lights, lost in their own world. Later, Clara led Liam to a quiet. The officiant said, I do. And the applause was loud. Clara and Liam kissed under the loving looks of Mia and Luna, who ran around them, happy about their new family. During the reception, Clara looked happier than ever. Liam pulled her onto the dance floor, where they danced under the lights, lost in their own world. Later, Clara led Liam to a quiet corner of the garden. She held his hands and smiled shyly. I have something to tell you, she said. What is it? Liam asked, curious. She took a deep breath, feeling the emotion rise within her. I'm pregnant, she said. A moment. Liam was speechless. Then his face lit up with a smile that seemed to brighten the entire place. Clara. That's amazing, he said, pulling her in for a kiss. Her into a tight embrace that we're going to have another baby. Liam lifted her off the ground in a joyful hug. Both of them laughed and cried at the same time. You just made this day even more perfect, he said, his voice full of emotion. That I and the months that followed, Clara and Liam's happiness only grew. They became a complete family, united by a love that overcame. Corner of the garden, she held his hands, a shy smile on her lips. I have something to tell you, she said. What is it? Liam asked, curious. She took a deep breath, feeling the emotion rise within her. I'm pregnant. A moment. Liam was speechless. Then his face lit up with a smile that seemed to brighten the entire place. "Clara. That's amazing," he said. Pulling every obstacle. The arrival of their new baby brought even more joy. Liam made a point to show every day how much he cherished his family. The past, which once seemed like a barrier, became nothing more than a distant memory. Clara knew her life would never be perfect. With Liam by her side, she had something much greater: true love, acceptance, a family in the corner of the garden. She held his hands and smiled shyly. "I have something to tell you," she said. "What is it?" Liam asked. Curious. She took a deep breath, feeling the emotion rise within her. "I'm pregnant," she said. A moment. Liam was speechless. Then his face lit up with a smile that seemed to brighten the entire place. "Clara. That's amazing," he said, pulling her close. That meant everything to her. "What do you think?" he asked. Did Clara make the right choice in forgiving Liam? Share your thoughts in the comments. On a scale of 0 to 10, how would you rate this story? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to follow all our stories. Check out more heartwarming tales by clicking here on the end screen.